Get ready. Get ready. Come on. Get ready for Betty, Tracy, Michelle, Phyllis, and Stephanie. A new show called Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God, call it G3. Education, celebration, transparency. There's no subject that they won't tackle if it uplifts you and me. Good grief, good gossip, good God, G3.
Hi, this is Betty Baye, and I'm back again with my girls for some good grief, good gossip, good God. Everybody wave a little bit. Stephanie Lackey, Phyllis Clark. Where you at, Michelle? Hey, Michelle. And Michelle and Tracy Johnson. How you doing? We are the co-hosts of Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God, coming to you on St. Stephen. You know, you all know TV Live. You know, I get that. Okay. But tonight, we're smiling, but tonight we're talking about a serious topic. We're talking about Breonna Taylor, the police killings of Black women, and some other statistics that don't look good for Black women in general. And we have been doing a little research here and found that, you know, since 2015, if my statistics are right, 70 Black women have died at the hands of police. Only two there. I think there've only been two charges, and in one case, it was a policewoman who was killed. And nobody gets charged with killing Black women. And in fact, most of us don't even know their names. So, for instance, if I say to you, Natasha McKenna, Tanisha Anderson, Michelle Cusseau, or Aurora Ross, Maya Hall, Yvette Smith, do any of those names ring a bell with you? These are some of the Black women who have been killed by police. We have heard nothing about it. Our Breonna Taylor here from Louisville, Kentucky, has probably had the most sustained attention of any Black woman killed by police. And that is because the protesters here have been consistent, and been out in the streets to keep her name out front. And so that idea of say her name doesn't just apply to Breonna Taylor. It applies to Black women across this country who've been assaulted and killed by police with little or no attention to their cases, maybe a one-day story in their town. So tonight, we want to talk about Breonna Taylor, and I think for our viewers who are not in Louisville, just to say that you may have heard about her case, you should have by now, but she was the EMS technician, a young emergency medical technician, 26 years old, who was killed inside her home in a very botched police raid on her apartment, where they were allegedly looking for a guy that she dated who was a drug dealer, who was already in custody at the time that they broke down her door in the middle of the night. She was there with her boyfriend. And the boyfriend, they said the police did not identify themselves. That whole issue is very questionable. But the fact of the matter is that Breonna died in a hail of bullets. We've had our Kentucky Attorney General has issued a report from the grand jury, and it would appear, at least to a lot of people, that he did not hold anybody accountable for Breonna Taylor's death. The policeman that was fired was the one who allegedly his crime was shooting blindly into the apartment of her neighbors. But as far as Breonna Taylor is concerned, no charges filed against anybody, and it would appear literally no case made in her defense for an innocent woman to be shot down in her home. And we've had other situations like that around the country. And a woman, and I hope you all will look up her name, Kimberly Crenshaw. She's a law professor at UCLA and Columbia University, who has in fact created the Say Her Name campaign based on the number of Black women who've been murdered by police and have not received a lot of attention in the media. And so I'm throwing it out to my girls today about being Black women, how we feel about that idea of us being literally invisible on so many levels, whether it's killed by police, on our jobs, making less money than everybody. So let's kick it. Somebody jump in here and let's talk about that.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say that has been upsetting for me is just the the rumors and everything that people say about this young lady in terms of, oh, she was, not right. She was a drug dealer. She was doing all these things, and none of that has been proven. And in fact, to the contrary, she didn't have a record. The postmaster, didn't find packages. I mean, all of the things that were out there in the social sphere, none of that was true. But for some reason, not me, but we as a society believe those things. And it's so easy to believe about a young Black girl that it was okay to shoot her because she made a mistake, or maybe the guy she dated prior, he wasn't the best choice. I mean, gosh, if we were held accountable for some of the bad dates that we went on, we would all be in a bad place, so it's just really sad that that is what has happened, that her name has been, run through the mud, I would say, to prove a point, like that maybe it was okay that she got shot because she deserved it in some way.
And never mind that no drugs were found in the apartment. Nothing was found of what they were looking for. And it goes back to the warrant. The warrant seemed to have been faulty. There's just a lot more to say. And people here are not satisfied. And people around the country are saying that our Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, happens to be a Black man, did not serve her well or serve the community well. So anybody else want to jump in here with your sense of this case that has put Louisville in the national and international spotlight?
Miss Betty, I'll jump in. I guess for me, I know Tracy was talking about how they tried to paint her in a bad light just because she made a poor choice in who she was dating. For me, my agony has been with her mom as a parent. Just the agony of losing a child. I just can't even imagine getting that phone call of somebody going into my son's home, because he's in his first home now, and just shooting up his home based off of as we've heard, a not valid search warrant. So for me, that's my concern, my worry, just as for my boys, just when they're out in their own homes, or even if they're out being pulled over by the police, just is something going to go wrong? Are they going to come home at night? Just as a parent, and just having to have that conversation with them, make sure you're telling the officers if you are pulled over where you're putting your hands, and watching your surroundings, and make sure you're videotaping if you are pulled over, anything that's done, because that's what saved a lot of us with all of these killings that are happening, not only to our women, but to our men, that the videotapes are surfacing so they have proof of the things that are going wrong. But just as a parent, I'm sick to my stomach a lot of days just when they're out of the house, just praying over them, make sure that they come home the same way that they left the house, because you just don't know what's going to happen in our world today. So as Tracy was talking about, just they're painting that bad picture of her, that bothers me as well. But just as a parent, just the agony that her mom is going through. She can't pick up the phone and call her daughter ever again. She doesn't know everything that happened because, there's been so many different sides of the story, and we know there's been things that have been told that are not true. So just her not having that peace of knowing what happened to her poor baby.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And my heart it just breaks for her mom, for her family members, and how they're trying to paint this horrible picture of this young woman who was, let's not forget, she was a public servant. She was an EMS worker. So, and I also read that she had aspirations of being a nurse. So she cared about people. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how possibly she could have been a doctor. There's so many positive things about this young woman that are not being spoken. And like Tracy said, it's like they're painting a picture of, oh, it's okay that she was killed because she dated the wrong person. Come on, are you serious? I mean, my heart just aches. I mean, it really aches. It aches for her mom, because like Michelle said, she's not going to see her daughter get married. She's not going to see her daughter, have her first child, and that's a life, that's a precious life that's just gone, right? And again, my heart just really aches. And there's so much wrong with this case. So much wrong. And we know it. Community knows it. And like Ms. Betty said, it's a disservice, not to make sure justice is served.
Mm-hmm. And Phyllis, you're a mom.
I am. I have two daughters. One is a senior in high school right now. The other is an eighth grader. And so when I think about girls, I'm thinking about them as a collective. And, you know, the things that they talk to me about are some of the things that I went through. But along that journey, I felt like I had to shrink or be diminished because I didn't feel like I could occupy certain spaces. And I think that led me to, on an earlier show, we talked about imposterism and how you just don't have a lot of confidence or you feel inadequate in certain situations. And I think that is one of the reasons is because of the way I look out in society right now and back then when I was coming up and how they do too, is the reason that we feel shut out. You know, it's like we are an outsider within because things are set up. The norms in society are set up so that we either have to be within white women's views or we have to be over politically with Black men. So where are we to sit? Mm-hmm. You know, so we're suppressed and oppressed in so many ways. And this is at the forefront of my mind right now because, you know, I'm studying Black feminist thought as a framework in my program. And, you know, we denied rights all of these years. I mean, just right here, I have a report that shows disturbing disparities, Black girls in the school to prison pipeline. Come on. People have tried to, no, they have written these narratives for us and have tried to shut us down. And so when I talk to my daughters, it is about being confident inside of any situation, knowing that they have a voice, whether or not they're talking to themselves about how they're going to behave or operate in certain spaces, or the questions that come to them where they need to go and get help from me or their dad or an authority figure or something like that. But, you know, I just don't like the way they are treating Breonna Taylor, her name, her family, even after she has been murdered. You know, and there are so many others. You mentioned all of those ones on the front end. And just think about their lives and their stories and how we're not going to be able to be blessed by whatever it was that they were supposed to do while here. And it took me off.
Yeah, and I think that is really the important point. I think, and you were getting to that, is that it's broader. And that the reason why we say her name, because Breonna Taylor, especially in this tragedy, has become symbolic. And we are not going back. You know, I was looking at some of the statistics about us, for example, and these are all related. The female incarceration rate for Black women is 8 times higher now than it was in 1980. More than 60% of the women who are incarcerated have children under 18. So when you lock up a woman or get her caught up in the system, there are children. In 2017, twice as many Black women as white women were in prison. African American women are 55% increase in our incarceration between 2000 and 2017. And then you add on top of all of that, women are paid less than men in general. On average, women earn 18% less than men, but Black women earn 38% less than men. That translates into thousands of dollars over a lifetime of annual earnings that they are not realizing. And you all know, when you get to my age, what you put in when you were younger makes a difference of what you get on the other end. So a lot of our women, this wealth gap, this income gap, you know what I'm saying? It really plays out for the rest of our lives. And then I saw 4 in 5 Black women are breadwinners. 81% of Black women are the breadwinners in their family. So when you pull them out of the home, when you kill them and you shoot them, you are impacting a whole community. So a lifetime of wealth is being lost, as well as you said, those things that people wish for their daughters, to get married, to have children, you know, to see them blossom and graduate from college. And the other thing, which is really interesting, is that women are better educated, but we are less appreciated. And it's interesting that at the higher income levels with the education, the wealth gap, the income gap is even wider than it is at the lower level. So Black corporate executive women tend to earn significantly less than their Black male counterparts. So do you want to jump in on some of that? Because I mean, it's a whole issue with Black women disrespected, overlooked, you know, and like you said, that imposterism. And we learn how to play the game real good. We wear the mask, you know, we go to work, we do all of these things, and people say, well, she's super. But we're dealing with all this, and plus the microaggression that we face. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so much against us.
Really, there it is. It really is. And we talk about corporate America, and we talked about the wealth gap there. I was doing some research on corporate America and women in leadership positions. So currently, there are a record of 37 women in leading Fortune 500 firms, which is an increase, right? But of those 37 women, just 3 are women of color, but none are Black or Latina. That's alarming. That actually gives me chills. Here it is, 2020, and we are not in those positions, but yet we make up, what did you say, Betty, 80% of the breadwinning family?
81% of the breadwinners, yes.
It just doesn't make any sense. And, you know, I think about, you know, just my experience. All of us have our experience in working in corporate America or working on your jobs, right? And how you said we have to learn how to play the game. We've got to dress up and play this game every day. It becomes exhausting, right? We can't be our true, authentic self. I think I saw in social media where one workplace is now allowing Black women to wear natural hair. When did that become a thing? When that is who you are? You know, I mean, it just baffles me.
They had to pass a law in California, the Crown Act, for our hair. Even our hair is discriminated against.
Yes.
Right.
You know, I mean,
nothing we have control over. We don't have control over our hair texture.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, Betty, I'm glad you mentioned the education thing, because I was thinking that as you were talking, and I have specific knowledge about that, and how, you know, it reminds me of how we're told that you have to do, you know, twice as much to get, you know, equal or half. And so it goes back to we have to constantly prove ourselves before we're given an opportunity. And that's with, you know, more education, more experience, but white women are given stretch opportunities and things prior to actually proving themselves. And so I think that's a burden that we continue to bear. And I don't know how it's gonna end. You know, that's the thing that is frustrating, is like, how is that gonna change? How are we gonna be able to change that narrative?
Well, I'm reading the book White Fragility now. I don't know if anyone read it. White Fragility talked about how having these conversations with white people, and they talked about white women's tears. And sometimes we try to say what we're saying, they'll start crying. And all of a sudden, the attention is taken away from what we're talking about to their tears. And this is a white woman who wrote the book based on her research as like a diversity consultant. And the hardest thing apparently to get white people to understand that what we're talking about is not a one-on-one individually, you don't care for me. We're talking about structural and systemic racism. And I think that if we don't have those conversations, like you were saying, with our children, Michelle was saying how she thinks about her boys and raising them to look at women. And Phyllis, what you have to say to your girls is that our hope has to be, in my generation, you know, there was the liberation struggle, and women were in leadership in that movement, but mostly the men were out front because the women did the work, and stories have not been told yet. But my hope is that in the younger generation is that if women are having good conversations with their daughters to really help them to understand what happens to them, to teach them how to fight, you know, for their place, for their rightful salary, how to negotiate, how to stop feeling like if you've done all that you can educationally, somebody's doing you a favor to give you a job. And it's just like, it's on us apparently to try to fight our own struggle as always. And I mean, we're not super women, but we have to be because of the positions that we have. And we have to keep pointing out the statistics. You know how Reb likes to talk about the data. We've got to keep developing the data. And we can use this show, to talk about the data and to let you know this is not anti-male, it's not anti-Black male, but it's saying that Black women need to be in the spotlight too. Yeah.
And speaking of data, I got something else in terms of education that piggybacks off Tracy. And among Black students in higher ed, women are more likely than men to earn degrees. Okay, we might know that, but Black women get 64.1% of our bachelor's degrees, 71.5% of master's degrees, and 65.9% of doctoral, medical, and dental degrees. So we're smart, we're out there, we're hustling, we're getting it done. But guess what I found? In some of this other literature, we are struggling internally, because we feel like we have to keep, a certain way and do certain things. And we're isolated in these predominantly white spaces. And it's also interesting, something else is coming out more. I don't think this is new, but the collectivity and the building of communities. I love my Facebook groups. I got way too many, but guess what? I'm fed by them, and I'm in spiritual connections and different things. And so, just like the Black student unions that are coming up in the high schools and the Louisville League of Ladies and some other things that high school girls are being able to get into, is teaching our young ladies how to talk about themselves, how to stand when they don't understand, how to just do what they're supposed to do in that space. They can learn from each other. And so building communities like what we're doing right now is really important and really, really critical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the collective.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say one thing I do love, and I know Phyllis talked about that on a previous show. Remember, we had Ryan Jones on a previous show as well. I love how it seems like this younger generation is just in the fight, and how they are just so vocal and just out there. Because Phyllis, I know you talked about your daughter she's just out there and she wants to be out there and things of that nature. I love how they are just out there, just being very vocal, speaking up. Because I know one thing also to piggyback on Stephanie, when you talk about how we have to act in corporate America, it's hard if we say something, because then we're painted as the angry Black woman. It's like we have to sit there and be quiet and just go along. But if you speak up for yourself, oh, she's mad, or you're giving that stereotype. But I love how our younger generation is saying they don't care about that. Paint me however you want to paint me. I'm going to speak up for myself and let you know that I'm here and you're not going to walk all over me.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing too is for my generation, and that is that we have to stop lying too, because a lot of us are, we really are not. I mean, you don't have to tell the young people everything, but I think you have to tell them, to let them understand that I made some mistakes, and this is what I learned from the mistakes. I'm working on a new book that I hope to give myself for my birthday, and maybe I'll publish it. But I for my 75th birthday next year, that I really want to do something with 75 life lessons that I've learned over 75 years that I can share. And the only way that you can share that is to be honest and to say, yes, I, married a fool, or I did something. Your children can count. They know how old they are, how old you were when they were born, but we just sort of make up these fantasies. And sometimes in trying to protect our children, we disarm them. And so I think a little more honesty from the people in my generation about the things that we did, the mistakes that we made, because they're going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But we want them to make mistakes that don't cost them their lives, And then
that's great advice, Miss Betty.
Stop being judgmental. Oh, that young girl over there, she had a baby, this one to this one. Instead of being supportive, we jump on them. And so some of this is, I think, responsibility of us who are older to really be there and to be godmothers to some of the young women that need us. Everybody doesn't want what we have to have, but when we find one that tries to get our attention, we ought to give it to them.
You need to get them.
You know,
I love that. Love it.
So that book, you're going to have it finished next year, because I think that's a show. We can do a book club on those 75
I'm
life
working.
lessons.
I've been thinking about it, but I try to think, you know, God spare me. I think that is a long time. And I just think about the things that I did in my life and the topics that I want to talk about. You know, boys. You know, boys really get on your nerve when they're young, and then you go, oh, they're fine. You know, I mean, it's all of these things. You know that happen. But if you're going to do that, then you need to be transparent and authentic. And like I said, you need to never tell anybody all your business. But I think that our young girls, younger women would really benefit if we had these generational things like we are on this show. You know, we all knew each other before we started doing Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God. But I think we know each other better because we've done this show. I mean, we have created like a community of us. And so it's not just seeing each other on Sunday and how you doing and girl, you look nice and all of that, but really understanding like where we are and being vulnerable with one another. So, you know, but I think about Breonna Taylor and people like, well, they gave her family $12 million. $12 million, I can't even imagine what that must be to say, well, she got, and first of all, the woman's not going to get $12 million because by the time the lawyers and everybody get out of it, but what is $12 million for your child's life, the child that you labored to have? You know, what is that money going to make up for what you will never see?
It doesn't compare. It does.
There's no price for life. There's no price.
There's not, Stephanie. None.
There's not.
And what can we do? And I think the other thing is, I saw something the other day. All of us are Greek. We're all in sororities. You know, all of y'all are AKAs. I'm the only Delta in the group. But I saw that beautiful picture, Stroll to the Polls, where they had all of the sisters from all of the sororities, from the black sororities, Alpha, Kappa, Alpha, Delta, Sigma, Theta, Theta, Phi, Beta, Sigma, Gamma, Rho, and they were strolling to the polls. And so we do have power collectively as women. And in our organizations, we need to make sure that we are celebrating one another, you know, and that we see Breonna as our sister. And when we see people on social media trying to take her down, that we respond. She did nothing wrong. She did nothing that she deserved to die.
That's right.
And one of you said it, you know, if we look back on our lives and look at some of those knuckleheads that we were with, you know, you don't want to kill everybody.
Show, Miss Betty. It's a whole other show.
You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, to judge somebody and to say like somehow she deserved to be killed, you know, because she dated a bad boy, I don't get it. You know?
I know, it's so sad. And I don't know if you guys have thought about this too, but just the whole, you know, going back to how I picture that raid to be. You know, I've watched some of the documentaries and the number of bullets, and it was in the middle of the night. And sometimes I see those stories when they are taking down the meth houses out in some of the counties. That's always done in broad daylight. And those people, it just seems like there's so many disparities when we're talking about a black life versus a white life at times, because there's more care taken when we're dealing with white lives at times, and that is what is discouraging, because if it was daytime, maybe things would be different, you know, and maybe she would still be here.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I understand that's a whole level of tactic that has to be used, and nighttime is, you know, one of the factors that is considered, and then, you know, they were posting some of the other things that they have to look at and coordinate. I mean, just sheets of information. How many people might that person have a gun in the house? So much, and that had to be something that was said yes to. You know, yeah. I mean, it's just a lot. But I wonder if we could pivot real fast to you talked about the collectivity of and us bonding together and building. even at younger ages, and of course at the ages we are now. I just saw someone here locally. Her name is Tish Thomas Frederick, and she doesn't know that I'm even saying this about her, but she just got an award local here in Louisville for an organization. It's a young women's group, and the name of it is Baya, Beautiful as You Are. And she brings girls together to have them talk about their lives and to honor their stories. And it's just beautiful. There are so many people out there like her who aren't getting the recognition. And I just wanted to stop and pause for this sister and tell her congratulations through our show and to acknowledge what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Kudos to her. She's awesome. She did our women's ministry. She was at our women's conference last year, Tracy. Remember, the little girls just loved what she presented to them.
Oh, yes. Yes.
She is wonderful, and that program is awesome. So congratulations to her.
Yes, I'm gonna let her know. I said something on Facebook or a little bit later.
Somebody needs to nominate her, and that's what we need to do. We need to be paying attention, nominating our sisters when we see them in different settings, doing different things. Because for me, Black women, we are so amazing. And I always think about Zora Neale Hurston, who said the very idea that you would deny yourself the pleasure of knowing me. And I think that so many people who don't get us, they are denying themselves the pleasure of knowing us. And we can do more together. And if this show is a vehicle for those kind of conversations, we hope that people would tap in and let us know, what you think about the topics. Give us, some ideas. But we have to keep saying her name. We have to say Breonna Taylor's name. We have to say Sandra Bland's name. We have to say the names of these women who have been killed. And I hope that people who are listening in will go online and look up some of these cases and see what's happening to our sisters around the country. This is not a happy topic, but it's a topic that has to be tackled. And somebody's got to pay attention to Black women's tears. Our tears have to matter. That's just my point, that when we cry and when we weep, our tears have to matter. And it is time for change. And I think that we're just not going to go back to business as usual. And Phyllis, I think that you had something, because we don't want to leave this on just a down note, but who's got some good gossip for us, some good gossip. Who got it?
So I have one thing from somebody we know, and I really admire her, Tracy Ellis Ross, because she is, I think, Stephanie, you were talking about, being your authentic self and being proud of who you are, what you look like, your hair, all those things. And the thing that a quote from her that I found recently was, when I realized I needed to stop trying to be somebody else and be myself, I actually started to own, accept, and love what I had. And so I think that that's something that we could all think about, again, going back to whether it's your hair, your skin color, all those things, your age, your body type, all those things. We should love those things, and in turn, others will do the same.
I love that.
That is wonderful.
One thing that I cherish most in life is the women who just accept themselves for who they are, right? Who accept their hair color, their skin color, who walk in greatness no matter what background they came from. Those overcomers, which I'm looking at overcomers right now, those women who, put their shoulders back and they go into their jobs and they perform to the utmost, to the best of their ability. And even though they're hurting on the inside, they still come out, that shiny quarter who is making a difference in this world. And I just admire what you just said, Tracy, and what you shared with us for our good gossip. Because there's nothing better than just being comfortable in your skin. Nothing better than that. And so I aspire to get there 100%. I'm not always there all the time. I'll be fully transparent. That's our sister Michelle always says, I'll be fully transparent. But on a lot of days, I am, and that's when I'm at my best, and that's when I do my best work, is when I am comfortable in this space. So thanks for sharing that.
That's one thing, and mine's very brief. We were talking about, I think Stephanie and I both being entrepreneurs, all of us being just strong Black women. You heard me say it once, and I say it all the time. I want all of us to win. So support your Black sister, whether she's in the same business as you, whether she's in the same sorority or different sorority than you, whatever it is, different family members, support each other, because if we all support each other and everybody wins, it's a much better place instead of hating on each other. Let's just all come together, love on each other, and help everybody to win. That's what's my motto about you. You've heard me say it several times. I always post on social media. I want everybody to win. And I think we just need to continue to do that collectively as Black sisters, and educate our white sisters as well, so they know how to support us during these tough times and be understanding as well.
Mm-hmm. And I suggest that there are so many books out here, and you all know I love to read, and but check out the book White Fragility, and check out some of the other books that really do deal with some of these topics that are historical and also just contemporary stuff, because there is material out there, and I love the computers and everything, but we can pick up a book every now and then and really sort of read and be supportive. And when you see a sister that has worked on herself and looks good, say, sister, you look good. Hi, girl, stop. What looks beautiful? Because you may be the kindest word they hear that day. So, there's so many things that we can just do individually to try to lift ourselves, but also to lift one another. And in this COVID, we all wearing loose clothes, muumuus and stuff like that. But, every day, once a week, get up, put on your makeup and stuff. Make your own self feel good. Hug yourself, and then we can make space for sisters like Breonna. We have to keep saying her name and telling her story. And I don't know how we are on time, because when we get to going, we can go. So I don't know who's the timekeeper tonight.
Well, I'm the timekeeper. I got a little off, but yeah, it's time for us to close it out. I mean, we'll probably come back to this topic several times. So, I reserve the right to leave it open.
Well, we appreciate everybody coming in to Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God. So tune in again. Remember, send us your ideas. Let us know what's happening. We are all beautiful, and we don't want you to be denied the pleasure of knowing us. So we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.